Relationship anxiety is characterized by being preoccupied with a person or perhaps a group of people. It is not only isolated to romantic relationships, however, it could be for specific people, but it can also spread to your work life, to your career, to your business. You might find yourself thinking that people in generally don't like you, or your experience might be that a lot of people reject you, push you away. And the first thought you get in your mind when you do not hear back from your colleague or from your partner or your love interest is that they have abandoned you, or they don't like you, or that you have done something wrong. And most of your life is focused on relationships and trying to maintain those relationships. So there's very little space to do anything else in your life because your mind is just so obsessed about relationships and trying to be perfect, trying to please everybody, trying to say the right thing to never upset anybody, and perhaps even not having boundaries. Most of the time, people with anxiety in relationships do not have boundaries. And this is one of those things that is adding to your anxiety. Hi, and welcome back to this channel. My name is Patrycja Mochocka. I am the owner and founder of the Love and Thrive School, which I have created so that we can shift from surviving to thriving. I offer coaching on attachment theory in various forms, whether it's subconscious mind reprogramming, somatic work, and emotionally focused therapy, inner child work. There are just so many tools that we can use nowadays to really help us create the change. And in this video, I'm going to give you 10 very simple steps to follow to reduce your relationship anxiety. I am going to preface this a little bit by saying that this might be slightly triggering to some people, especially if you are doing these things and you have some belief systems that are causing you to follow these patterns that were ingrained in you from childhood, right? Because that's what usually happens. Our childhood determines how we're going to think, feel, and act in our relationships when we are adults. So if you find that something triggers you here, fantastic. That is generally the point where we can grow and develop. So maybe that's the juicy bit that you need to focus on to help you shift this anxiety pattern. Now, my videos usually get better towards the end, so stick around because the last few bits are extremely important. Now, number one, people with relationship anxiety usually give up their whole life to be in a relationship. They stop seeing friends, they stop seeing family, they stop doing what they love. Maybe they stop going to yoga or hiking with their friends, or they stop doing crafts or the art class that they enjoyed. Basically, everything that fuels them and makes them the very attractive, alluring person that the partner was attracted to. And when this happens, the anxious person then focuses on the partner as the source of all of their needs and also as a pacifier for their emotions. Now, this in itself puts a lot of pressure on the relationship to always be perfect. Because if you do not have any other things in your life that fuel you, if you don't have friends anymore, if you don't have family members anymore, this is the only person that you have chosen to attach to and do everything with, that is going to feel extremely tricky. If anything goes wrong with that relationship, it's going to feel like life and death. This is why it's extremely important that you maintain your life when you're in a relationship. Not only is that going to help you release and lower your anxiety, it's going to give you so much more love from other people and other activities. And it's also going to reduce the importance of the relationship. Now, reducing the importance of the relationship is not completely saying it doesn't matter or it's not a priority. Of course, our partners are our priority, especially when we get into relationships and the relationship is serious. We become each other's attachment figures, in case of emergency people, right? But what we want to do is deprioritize the relationship so it's not the only thing in your life, so that you can start to focus on your work, on your passion projects, on your hobbies. Usually people with relationship anxiety lower the importance of everything else and put the relationship on the pedestal. Okay, try to do the opposite, and I promise you, you might not want to do that, but when you do, it will start to feel a lot easier. Because if the relationship doesn't work out, you still have a phenomenal life to go back to. And you don't want to have that as like a plan B, but as humans, we have a need for people, especially people who have a tendency towards anxious attachment or fearful avoidance even, that are leaning towards anxious attachment at times. We need society, we need community. The more people we have in our lives where we can share our love and life and passions with, the happier we are. Everything in life is about relationships. So when you have those beautiful relationships that are supporting you, and this is going to be a very beautiful addition to that relationship, it's not going to be a be-all and end-all. If it ends, of course, you're going to be sad, but it's not going to be your whole life that has fallen apart. Very important. Maintain your life. You might even have to schedule all of your activities in meeting friends. You might have to schedule that and really stick to it, because all you want to do is be with your partner. Think about your partner. And when you do that, and this takes me to number 2, is stop watering somebody else's lawn. Okay? What I mean by that is, when you're constantly focusing on somebody else, maybe you're making them food, you're making sure that their health is okay, that their bills are paid, that they are okay, their house is clean. If you are so focused on them and giving to them at the expense of yourself, your lawn is literally going to dry up and be bare. Their lawn is going to be beautiful, it's going to be abundant, it's going to be rich, and you are going to be exhausted, depleted, and that is going to make you even more anxious, and that is going to make you even more resentful and fearful that now you've poured so much into this relationship, and if it breaks apart, your whole world is going to end, which is going to feed the anxiety monsters in your head. Right? So water your own lawn. Make sure that you are fulfilling your own needs, that you're looking after yourself. Number 3, become your own cheerleader. Today's title's a little bit tongue-in-cheek because I felt a little bit humorous, so just bear with me. Become your own cheerleader. This means that you want to decrease the volume on your own self-criticism. And usually people with anxiety in relationships or anxious attachment style, fearful avoidance, have very, very high and loud voices of criticism, constantly picking away at their character. This makes you very susceptible to love bombing, to toxic relationships. It makes you very susceptible to manipulation. It also makes you lower your standards, and you put somebody else on the pedestal. So you see the other person as higher or more valuable than you are. And that increases your relationship anxiety, because you always have to chase and compensate for your perceived shortcomings. We are all human beings. All of us, me included, have a bag of baggage that we have to unpack. Of course, the more we have been doing the work, the lighter it gets, the more pleasurable life becomes, and the easier it gets, right? So when I look at my own life, my bag is not nearly as heavy as it was before. So of course, it's easier for me to move through life, and it's also easier for me to be in a relationship and for my partner to be in a relationship with me. However, we all have our baggage. We are imperfect people. We are sometimes annoying. So by putting somebody on this pedestal, you are compromising yourself. You're going to constantly overcompensate, try to show up, try to phone them more, message them more, make all their arrangements. And that doesn't show you how they really feel. It doesn't give space for them to show up for you. So if you're the one that is constantly showing up, I'm not saying just ghost your person or ice them out, but I'm saying just start to focus in on yourself, start to validate yourself, your own feelings, tone down the self-criticism, start to notice your own strong points. Every day, write them down. What is it that you did right? How are your emotions valid? If somebody invalidates your feelings, think about it, okay? And then see, yeah, my emotions are actually valid. Maybe the actions that I've taken because of my emotions, maybe shouting at a person because I'm angry is not the behavior that I want to continue perpetuating in my life and making that stronger. But understanding that I can get angry, I can get sad. My joy or frustration or hurt, they are valid. Your feelings are valid. You are valid. It's very important that you start to validate yourself. And if a person doesn't like you the way they are, or rather the way that you are, then perhaps this is not the person for you. If you have to contort yourself and completely change who you are to be with somebody and hide everything from them because you feel like those parts are unlovable, and that's what usually happens when we have self-criticism. We believe that there's these dark things that nobody can love about us, so we have to keep them secret and hidden, and that breeds shame. And if you are with somebody that you have to constantly change and be somebody else, not only are you lying to them, but you are lying to yourself. Because even if you get that person to give you attention, you are never going to get loved. You're always going to feel scared that they're going to find out that you are imperfect and that they will leave you because of that. So the more you can be yourself, of course, we all want to work on ourselves. We can't just explode at somebody or send them a million texts because, of course, that is going to get too much for anybody. But being your true, authentic self is beautiful and it is valid. Number 4, take them off the pedestal. Very important. Stop putting anybody on a pedestal. Because what usually happens, if you put them on a pedestal, they will usually fall. The higher you put them on that pedestal, they will fall from grace. They will disappoint you. And especially fearful avoidance, if you do this, you might notice that at the beginning of the relationship, you put them on the pedestal and then they do 1 or 2 things wrong, and it usually breaks your trust, and then it's very difficult to come back from that. You start to be very scared of the relationship, and your avoidant patterns start to come up to the surface. And then you start to pull away from the relationship, even in subtle ways, or you start to criticize or judge the partner. And they will respond to that, and that will create a whole dynamic. And all of a sudden, the relationship just doesn't feel good anymore. Now you're replaying some kind of childhood pattern, and you think, oh, here we go again. I am dating my father again. I'm dating my mother again. Here it is again. So notice, by putting a person on a pedestal, you're actually saying they are not human anymore. Okay, humanize yourself, humanize everybody. We are all human. We have our strengths and then we have our weaknesses or points that we want to still develop that are unpolished, however you choose to see that. Notice both in everybody and think, not only can I love this person at their best, but are my demons going to play with theirs? Can I love them at their worst? Can I love them if they are messy and leave the kitchen in a mess? Can I love them if when they lose their temper they shout? Can I love them if they sometimes go cold? Can I love them if they are sulky and sometimes get into depression? Okay? If you cannot, that means there's not a compatible relationship. You are incompatible. Okay? So really looking at a person as a human being with faults, with strengths, and evaluating, can our faults work together? Okay? Look at that instead of looking, can our strengths work together? That's fantastic. When you're at your best, you can handle a lot, but can you handle somebody at their worst? Okay? And that's why we want to have a very clear vision from the start of a human being. This is stop taking them off the pedestal. Also, don't just poke holes and try to look for red flags, because you will find them in every human being. We all have red flags. So try to keep a balanced point of view. You know, if you're new to, you can do an exercise, write their strengths, write their weaknesses, or the points that they still have to develop, and think about it. Is this person willing to work with me? Can I work with them? Can I handle this if nothing changes? Because often we get into relationships for their potential, or we get into relationships because we are desperate. Let's be honest. Some of us get into relationships because we feel lonely, or we have such poor self-esteem, and we will accept pretty much anything, right? This is why it's so important. The previous step I said, self-validate. Stop self-criticizing. Stop putting yourself down, because then you will be a match for the wrong kind of person and the relationship will be toxic. All right, let's move on. Number 5, sow your own seeds in your garden, which is your mind, your life, your body. Pour into yourself. So this is an extension of what I said in number 2, stop watering somebody else's garden. But this is more directed at really fulfilling your own needs. Okay, what are your needs? What are your goals? What are your passion projects? What do you really crave in your life? Do you crave connection? Okay, start first by connecting to yourself. This is the point that a lot of people don't want to do. A lot of anxious types, a lot of fearful avoidants will sit with me session after session, and we have to break through these beliefs where we believe that love will only feel good if it comes from the outside. And this increases your anxiety even more, because it's so emotions of even validation that are coming from another person, emotions of approval from another person are so fleeting. If you wake up in a good mood, you will leave your house and approve of everybody. You will be so tolerant. However, if you're in a bad mood, if you're sick, if you spill a cup of coffee, if somebody cuts you off in traffic, all of a sudden that changes and you stop giving validation. Or maybe you don't, but other people can. The point is that it's so very fleeting when we get things from others, right? And even if somebody loves you to the end of the world and back, I promise you, it will never feel like it's enough until you fill your own bucket of self-love from the inside. And if you don't know how to do that, then you have to sit down and write out in your journal, what is it that you want from the world? What is it that you want from the person that is romantically involved with you? How would you accept their love? Is it go through the 5 love languages, right? So will they be buying you gift, buy yourself gifts? Will they be affirming you and praising you? do that. And again, like we go back to the previous point, stop criticizing yourself and start saying kind things to yourself. And this might take time. It's not going to be a process overnight where you learn to love yourself. I had to sit for years in meditation. When I first started going to yoga in like 2002 or maybe 2001, and one of my teachers said, connect with self-love. I was like, what is that? I was so filled with self-hatred. At that stage, I was eating disordered and my life was just in such a big mess. I didn't even understand what self-love could possibly feel like. So now it's been so many years, decades, over a decade, close to 2 decades have passed. And now I am like, okay, I can feel self-love, what that feels like. But it took action. Right? And that's what you want from your partner. You want them to see you at your weakest and love you in that space and perhaps comfort you, say nice things to you, spend quality time with you, right? If you want your partner to spend quality time with you, but you don't want to spend quality time with you, how is that even going to work? All right? So take that time to be with yourself. Pour love into yourself, fulfill your needs. I always say there is a list of feelings and needs on my website, and how it works is that you track your feelings every day, right? So say, for example, I'm feeling sad. Then you go to the needs list and you figure out what a need is not fulfilled, because every single negative emotion that we feel, it is a signal. It is just a sign from our emotional body to say, hey, I am empty of connection or communication or love. And see if you can pour that into yourself. I'm not saying become avoidant and become an island and not need anything from the external world. But if you're a person that has never sat with yourself, or very rarely sat with yourself, or perhaps you really struggle to do this, then start pouring love into yourself more. What would that even look like? First, start with the actions, right? Maybe you take care of yourself physically, then start taking care of yourself emotionally. Journal, meditate, do guided relaxations, yoga. Do something that is fulfilling, that is also going to help you shift emotions. TRE, maybe you do drawing, painting, cooking, bubble baths, whatever it is. Different days will require different things, and you might have to just figure it out, try different things, and try them more than once. Because if we try them only once, they might not work. All right, let's move on. Number 6. This is very important. I listen to some of my friends when they phone me with relationship issues, and they just listen to some bad advice. Okay, bad advice is extremely toxic for you and for your relationships. If somebody is fear-mongering on the internet, the social media you watch can really be very what is the word I'm trying to use? Inflammatory. Yes, inflammatory. And that can cause more fear. A lot of the time, people know that fear sells. Okay? Media knows that. So if you are attracted to constantly looking at material that is going to talk about only how the world is this scary place and you need to be wrapped in bubble wrap to just move through it, that is going to make you feel extremely, extremely anxious. If the only thing you see is red flags in everybody, that is an indication to work on ourselves, to turn inwards and see what is it inside of me that is feeling so unsafe in the world? What is it inside of me that cannot spot other people's negative behavior? Because if I cannot spot it outside, it means that there is internally I'm doing something to myself, right? So it's the shadow aspect. What I'm talking about is when you're criticizing yourself, you're more likely to be a match for somebody who is highly critical of you, because you do not know the difference. You will just accept that because that's how you treat yourself. So everything is a mirror to us. So we want to come back into ourselves and find a space of grounding within ourselves and find calm. So if the advice you're getting on the internet, or somebody is fear-mongering, one of your friends, maybe they've been cheated on and they're very suspicious constantly of everybody, just observe that. Where is it coming from? Where are you taking your advice from? Okay? If you are taking your advice from those sources, chances are you're going to get very, very, very anxious, right? So, and that's just exasperating your attachment style. So pick places that are really healthy sources of information. Number 7, self-regulate. A big part of anxious attachment is that, and fearful avoidant attachment is a lack of self-regulation. And this is a little bit more difficult to learn by yourself, although if you really cannot go see a coach for whatever reason, I'll always suggest that have a look at DBT. There is a wealth of information on YouTube. Phenomenal work by Marsha Linehan about how to regulate our emotions. Start there. It completely revolutionized my life, and it helped it's really helpful for my clients as well. So start to regulate your own emotions. Don't just be so susceptible or so hungry to always get it from somebody else, because anxious people have this belief that only somebody else can regulate me. Only my friend can regulate me. So yes, maybe you're still in that pattern of reaching out to somebody all the time. But before you pick up the phone to phone your friend, take 5 deep breaths. Okay? Or when you get on the phone with your friend to vent or to get soothing, see if you can ask your friend, okay, can we take 5 breaths together? I don't feel safe. Start to name your emotions. And then, yes, maybe go into the rant and still follow that pattern until it doesn't serve you anymore. Because if you phone somebody and you're venting, chances are you're not getting less anxious. Chances are you're just generating more of the same. It's like a car battery. It just regenerates more and more energy the more you drive it. So it's the same thing with this anxiety. You just keep building it the more you talk about it. So find some kind of self-regulation through a course, through yoga, but yoga is really, really great because it teaches it to you in the body, but I find that you need both. You need the theory in the mind, understanding how to manage your thoughts, and also you understand how to cope with sensations in the body. Deal with those 2 components. Thoughts and feelings need to be dealt with equally. And number 8, this one is something that you can do with a coach, and that is healing your abandonment wound. Okay, first steps to that is learning to regulate your emotions. First, learn, what am I feeling? What is the need? Once you start to fulfill that, you're going to feel so much better. I promise you, if you learn how to fulfill your own needs, your depression is going to start to lift, if not completely dissipate. Anxiety begins to dissipate also. At least it will alleviate, and it might completely dissipate, because insecure attachment means that we have unfulfilled needs from childhood. The needs were either inconsistently met for anxious attached individuals, they were neglected for dismissive avoidance, and for fearful avoidance, they were both. They were either neglected or they were abandoned, and fearful avoidance were also made to feel scared of their caregiver. All right. So healing abandonment wounds is starting with yourself. Okay, it doesn't start with somebody else. It starts within yourself. When you stop abandoning your feelings, your needs, because that's your inner child. And once you get that connection, you're going to feel so solid within yourself that, yes, you're still going to feel a little bit of worry and tension when things don't go your way in life. You know, we're human. However, it's not going to completely send you in for a spin where you can't go to work, or you're so preoccupied only with work and trying to only stay busy with work to the exclusion of everything else or just the relationship in your life, right? So I hope that helps you. Let me know in the description box or in the comments below if there is something burning on your mind that you would like me to make a video on, and I will do that. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Big love.